Welcome to the milestone 25th Miami Jewish Film Festival, the world's largest festival of its kind. We want to thank all of our members, sponsors, community partners, all of you film lovers, and especially our presenting sponsors, the Center for the Advancement of Jewish Education and the Greater Miami Jewish Federation for their continued support throughout all these years. My name is Julie Jacobs, Rabbi and Cantor of Beth David Congregation, and I'm excited and honored to be moderating a virtual conversation with director Chris Gero and musicologist Francesco Lotoro from The Sound of Us, which is premiering at this year's festival. Thank you all for joining us. The film was incredible, moving. I enjoyed it with all my heart, and I can't wait to learn more about it and to talk about it with you both. I guess first, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourselves. Chris, maybe you can begin and tell us about your background and how you decided to start this film.
Sure, thank you. And it's an honor to be with you. Thank you for having us. You know, it's not a very exciting story. I grew up in a musical but very turbulent family, and was influenced by a lot of different musical ideas. My father was a musician, and that's not what he did for a living, but he learned music early, and I was very influenced by the type of music that he was influenced by, and that was very classical and jazz oriented. My brothers were, two older brothers were very influenced by pop music at the time. So I had a very vast background in understanding different genres of music, and I came from a pretty rough and tumble family, and kind of went off on my own to figure out what it was I was going to do when I went out into the world. And so music chose me, and I chose it, and from there I went off and kind of joined the circus, so to speak, and went to California, and started writing and recording with a bunch of famous folks, and then I ran away from that, and then I went to go work for Yamaha, and ran the artist program, and then ran the record and film group, which I still do to this day. But I never stopped being a writer, and somewhere in that process I became a filmmaker, and I guess I'm doing okay because some of our work is recognized, and so from that I came to a place where I realized that I had a responsibility to my children and to the world to remind all of us that through music we are good to each other, and we do good things, and we create empathy, and we create hope, and we make the world a better place. And so I needed to tell the story of extraordinary people such as Francesco and others, that they make the world an extraordinary place because of the commitment they project through music, and I wanted to tell their stories, and that's how this film got made.
Well, you truly delivered on that, and I appreciate the work that you put into it and the time that it must have taken to make this film, and we can speak to that a little bit more. Francesco.
Yes.
Hello, ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you for being here. I I would love to know, how you even started, what sparked the interest in your journey, and how you decided to, look for this particular music, and what kind of inspired you, or what moment was it for you?
Hai capito la domanda, Francesco? Vuole sapere cosa ti ha portato, qual è stato la scintilla che ti ha portato a questa ricerca, se le vuoi parlare. Fammi sapere se lo vuoi dire in inglese o in italiano.
Meglio in italiano. Sì.
Ok.
Non è molto importante come è cominciata questa ricerca, è importante invece sapere come andrà a finire.
It's not very important how this research started. It's very important how it's going to finish.
In realtà non c'è nulla di particolare, di speciale per un ebreo in questa ricerca. È la cosa più ebraica che si possa fare, e cioè quella di salvare la storia di tutti gli uomini, non solo ebrei e non. E se questa storia passa attraverso la musica, abbiamo una motivazione in più.
So this story is very important as a Jewish person. It's kind of like something that has to be remembered. This is something as a Jewish person, it's important to find this music and bring it back to life, not just Jewish music, but everybody who was, in captivity during the Holocaust, during World War II. So it's important to find this music of everybody that wrote it, whether they were Jewish or not.
Come ebrei abbiamo innanzitutto il dovere di fare tikkun, e cioè di riparare alle ferite che ci ha inferto la storia, e recuperare tutta questa musica è il collante, è la medicina più potente che possiamo usare per riparare a queste ferite.
As a Jewish person, a tikkun is like something that it's within you. It's like this research is like the medicine to heal. It's something that he feels very strongly, and something that he continue. It's like his duty to continue on this journey to recover that.
Ma come ebrei abbiamo anche il dovere di fare le mitzvot. E qui ci sono migliaia e migliaia di uomini che hanno adempiuto a una delle più importanti mitzvot, e cioè quella di scrivere un sefer. Non hanno scritto un sefer realmente, ma hanno scritto migliaia e migliaia di opere musicali nel momento più tragico della loro vita. Questo per me equivale ad è come se avessero scritto dei sefarim, e quindi non dobbiamo far altro come ebrei di salvare i loro sefarim, né più né meno.
As a mitzvah, as a Jewish person, mitzvah is something very important to Francesco. He's always, it's within him. It's like his duty as a Jewish person. Just as all these people that were held in captivity, they thought it was something beyond them to continue to do this research. So for him, this is, it's pivotal in his research.
It's his mitzvah, his obligation to repair, and you mentioned in the film also the concept of bringing the dead back to life. Bringing the life of them into our souls and our hearts, and continuing to tell their story. That's part of our text. It's part of our liturgy. Mechaye hametim, and I feel very strongly that your work is in fact the message behind that prayer, that we take every little bit that we can to remember and to embrace the lives of those we've lost.
Come tu hai ricordato, una delle più importanti preghiere, benedizioni dell'Amidà, è quella che finisce proprio Mechaye Ametim. In realtà per l'ebreo non c'è la vita e la morte, c'è la vita e la vita. La morte è un gate, è un accesso, ma solitamente dell'altra vita non parliamo molto, siamo molto realisti. Questa volta abbiamo l'opportunità di parlare veramente dell'altra vita, e l'altra vita è quella che questi musicisti ci hanno lasciato. È una vita fatta di intelletto, di musica, di spirito, di creatività, ed è la vita che ci è rimasta di loro. Di questo dobbiamo parlare. Ecco perché c'è la vita e non la vita e la morte. È paradossale. Loro hanno creato questa musica certe volte a un passo dalla morte. Eppure questa musica è più vivente di tutto quello che possiamo immaginare.
As you mentioned in the prayer, you said, you know, for Francesco, as a Jewish person, there's life and there's life, there's life and there's death. But to bring this music is life and life, not necessarily death. Whether death is in the other life is a whole topic. It's deeper. But right now, to save that music is to save a life. So it's life to life, and it's important to make sure that this music is remembered, because it's bringing that back to life. It's bringing the art, it's bringing music, it's bringing literature. So making sure that people are aware of this heritage, of this musical literature, is bringing these musicians back to life. And that is important, and it should never be forgotten.
Thank you. Chris, what was it like for you to, watch that interaction or that feeling that between, Francesco and Jacob? It was quite moving, and I would love to know how it moved you, or if it.
Francesco is an extraordinary man, and I would say it whether I was on the call with him or not. I was so taken by his extraordinary commitment to what is his life's work. It's I think much of it is a very thankless occupation in which you live in death, and the where I try to frame myself as a writer and as a director, I try to get into other people's heads and try to understand why they do what they do, and including I try to understand these musicians being dragged out to play, to play music to give hope to people who have no hope, and I'm stuck in that idea, and because I look at it from both receiving that music, and you feel sorrow and you feel empathy, and even to your captors, and you feel hope, and then as a musician performing it or writing it and giving it as a gift to somebody who has no hope. The phenomenal degree of joy and hope that gives, that you're presenting as well, and I asked Francesco and Donatella and Nanette, we were on a call together, and I asked, is there a piece of music that resonates more than any other piece of music? And then they said, no, we're not, that's too hard. That's too hard of a question. And about a week later, I got a call from them, and then Francesco was gracious enough to tell me the story of Jack Garfien, and I can't. I realized that the segment needed to have two main elements. It was this remarkable work that Francesco is doing and then celebrating, not exploiting, but celebrating the work of all of these other people who are lost and who are found through the music that Francesco, uncovers and brings back to the world, because, you're bringing back somebody's life, as he has said, and the world, this belongs to the world, as he says in the segment. It's our right to it. And so I wanted to, the 16 bars that the boy sings, the words are absolutely shattering. Yet I wanted to celebrate those 16 bars as a universal victory of humanity. And so to see Jack Garfien with Francesco, to me, is a sweet man who was very determined to get this off his chest to someone he could trust to take care of it. And so I felt and still feel this overwhelming responsibility to take care of it. And so I needed to present it in a way that honored the maestro who trusted me to tell the story of it, and of Jack Garfien. And so it is a very, very heavy, weighted responsibility that I feel to press forward this story and their work.
Thank you, Chris. You have taken on this mitzvah because you are bringing this story and teaching it. You're also taking on that obligation to not forget through music, through souls. It was truly inspiring also to see Jack not able to sing it, stopping and crying and pausing and crying. And Francesco, your just the mere idea that this is what you are doing in your life caused someone else to be able to open up and share the depths of their soul that they couldn't share with anyone else for 70 plus years is extraordinary. And more of us in this world need to follow that example to allow safe, sacred space for others to open up their hearts to us so that we can help repair the world. What was that like for you when he finally released his song?
Allora, sta parlando ovviamente di Jack Garfien, che ovviamente ci deve essere molta fiducia che se per tutti quegli anni ha mantenuto dentro di sé questa canzone, perciò si è sentito che tu eri la persona giusta per poter rilasciare questa memoria, questa canzone. Ora ti sta chiedendo come sei riuscito, come sei riuscito a avere la sua fiducia.
I try to explain in English. In the case of Jack Garfien, the history with him is absolutely different from other stories. In this case, he searched for me. I didn't search for him because I didn't know Jack Garfien as a musician. He was not a musician. He was a famous actor, director of famous movies. He launched James Dean and other famous actors. And he told me after I met him that he read about my research in US Today, a magazine, a newspaper in USA. So he, by means of a secretary of him, he called to me, to my cell number. At that time, I was in Eretz, in Israel. So this lady told me, Mr. Garfien wants me to you in Italy. Yes, but I am in Israel. He wait for your comeback in Italy. And I live in Barletta. He was busy in a city close to Barletta, so he came to my city, and in the gardens of the castle, he dictated his history. When he told me that it was the 613 man, no, after the account, and I remembered to him as a Jew, Jack, you are the last mitzvah, of course. For this reason, you saved yourself, and he, this is fantastic, as Chris remembered. He waited for more than 70 years. He had this melody in the freezer of his brain. He was a famous man in Hollywood, New York. He made a lot of actors, singers. He has several occasions to launch this melody, not in Barletta, but in Broadway. His son is famous pianist and composer in New York. Why he wait 70 years to dictate to me this melody? We don't know. There is not a reply to this, but these are strange design that belong to this research. In some case, we have to wait 10, 20, 30, 30 years. This research is not yet completed, you know, and according my accounts, 120,000 musicians are still missing. No, and so we need to complete this research into next years. So let's hope that not one, but a lot of Garfines can call to my smartphone and can run to sing to me, to us, to all of us, the melody that they still remembered, or they wrote in some paper and they lost somewhere. This is a great hope, because this probably this music didn't save their authors, but surely this music will save to us.
Thank you. It kind of links a little bit into another part of the movie where you focus on the idea that there are so many school systems that don't teach music, or that's the first thing that gets cut. As someone who's been through that and understands that, also I have music in my life, my family's life, and my upbringing, and it's if we don't continue to teach how to hear music and to teach how to transcribe or to compose or to remember melodies in our schools, then or in our homes, then there's less of a chance for us to have more Francescos. I'm curious to know first from also from Francesco, if there are other people, younger people who are taking on this obligation as well that he's inspired. And also Chris, for you too, Sarah Mclaughlin, people who teaching or starting these schools to help the next generation understand the importance of what music is to them. How do we continue that legacy? What is, how do we strengthen that? And how can, from what you've seen, maybe Francesco first, are there others with you who are doing this, or who you are teaching, or who are continuing to search for these people? And then I'll ask Chris again.
Ti stai chiedendo, Francesco, se nella tua ricerca ci sono altri Franceschi Lotori, altre persone che si stanno aiutando con la ricerca, a chi passerai questa staffetta per continuare questa ricerca, nel senso i tuoi collaboratori?
Beh, il primo uomo che ha cominciato questa ricerca veniva proprio dai campi di concentramento, si chiamava Alexander Kurisevich e lui ha cominciato a fare questa ricerca nel campo di concentramento di Sachsenhausen, perché grazie al suo cervello meraviglioso ha immagazzinato 716 canzoni.
The first person actually to conduct this research is Alexander Kurisevich. He was a prisoner at the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Francesco calls him the grandfather of his research. He memorized 716 songs. He went around the camp, whatever type of music, he memorized it. And after the war at a Red Cross hospital in Sweden, he let the 716 songs be transcribed by nurses and other people that were musically inclined. So Francesco is taking on the research, but Alexander Kurisevich is the grandfather of this research.
In America, negli Stati Uniti, a New York, a Washington, c'è uno dei più grandi ricercatori di questa musica, Brett Webb, che ha compiuto un grande lavoro di recupero soprattutto della musica dei ghetti e dei campi ad alta presenza ebraica. Ci conosciamo da decenni in una sorta di continuo arricchimento reciproco. Continuiamo ad aggiornarci con una sorta di programma che non finisce mai di essere in update continuo, no?
In the United States, New York and Washington, D.C., Brett Weber is, he's been doing this research as well. He's been doing research of songs specifically written in the ghettos during the war. So he's had a collaboration with Maestro Lotoro for decades now, and he is a great mind. So he's a continuing source of information and a collaborator of Maestro Lotoro. So he's a brilliant mind.
Non mi sono ancora preoccupato di allevare altri Franceschi, perché sono così convinto di vivere così a lungo da voler completare io questa ricerca. Ma forse... Dimmi, traduci.
Francesco is saying that in the meantime, he's not raising other Francesco Lotoros because he's convinced he's going to live a long life. And so he's not particularly worried about right now.
Ma credo che fra 20 anni mi porrò delle domande esistenziali e comincerò a dare molti più compiti ad altre persone. Ci sono musicologi, ci sono giovani ricercatori che mi affiancano, tu lo sai, nella fondazione, che sono desiderosi come me, come altri, di completare questo grande genoma della storia della musica.
He's like, in 20 years from now, he'll have the existential question of, okay, perhaps it's time to think of who to pass on the baton. But he does have collaborators who are working with him right now. So he'll, when that time comes, he knows who to go to and, to make sure that this research continues.
Great. Yeah, my first thought when watching this film also was that many people don't understand music. I'm watching it as a musician. I'm watching it as somebody who understands, something more about music. And there are people who are watching this film for the first time and maybe don't realize, the importance of, music in our schools or music in our homes and music in our lives, especially when it comes to research and how it helps us and what it means to us. So Chris, going back to I tried to ask it to both of you at the same time, doesn't really work too well on Zoom, but to kind of go to the place where, in moving forward with the next generation and encouraging the next generation to understand, why this is so important and what the potential is for them to do something like this, do a mitzvah to bring life to others through song. What does it look like right now in the world in terms of education and music education?
Yeah, every culture in the world has music as part of their, as part of their community, and music existed long before language existed. And in creating this movie, we spoke to a lot of really smart people, and if you follow the top of the movie, you think it's kind of a planet Earth, very ethereal, large thinking film. It's not. very simple, and that is that we communicate on a genetic level through music to each other. We receive and we transmit and receive empathy through music. And we learn to be a collective and a community through that sharing of that idea. And it's very, very simple, but it's a very complex notion. And we accept each other openly through there's a gentleman in the film that says music is like love. We live within it. And that is music. That's what music is. And unfortunately, music isn't considered as important in today's world, especially in the educational communities, as important as football or European football or celebrity basketball or sports. And it's not received as crucial or critical as part of a communal structure. And therefore, a lot of the traditional, arts programming and arts education, falls on the wayside. And so it's left for people who connect to it and who breathe it to push it forward. Much in a way of Francesco's dedication to uncovering the lives, not only symbolically, but the guttural feeling of recreating somebody's life and presenting it forward. It is that acceptance of something so deep within you to bring it to somebody else, and for somebody else to accept that communication and to empathetically understand it. And that's what music does. People like Sarah Mclaughlin, besides the fact that she's a dear friend of mine for many, many years, she's in the film because she's the real deal. She, for now 20 years, has gone off and created an environment where underprivileged children get to experience what music is at that level, where they're otherwise not given that opportunity. And throughout the film, I focus on these types of ideas of the experience of what it means from within, and the gift that you give, that you translate and you communicate and you project to the outer world. I can't tell you, I can tell you that I love my wife, but I can't really tell you what's inside of me. And it's that unexplainable genetic level of understanding why it's so important in this world, and why it's so important that we all embrace each other in it. And so, the unfortunate part is that it's just not really looked at that level, especially, I have 4 little children, and they all go to public school, and they have music once each of them have music, like an hour-long music class once a week. And not to be disrespectful to those people, but it's pretty, it doesn't resonate in the manner in which I feel the level of importance of what it really should be is presented. And so, unfortunately, it maybe it's secular, I hope, I don't know, but maybe one day we'll understand the true connection to humanity that music creates for us, as opposed to, the idea that sports, although that's also, a way of communicating, it's just kind of not the same thing. I hope I made sense.
No, you did. And I think it goes back to the questions, and maybe before we finish, I'll ask this question, which is, why you chose the two questions: what is music, and what is music to you? And we have, I think, a concept of what music is on the surface, and maybe school systems think, okay, this is music, you're going to learn an instrument and da-da-da. But maybe that's what people would see music is. And then when we watch this film, we get a better understanding of the depth of what music can be, and that each of us has a way of communicating through music, and some of us don't even know it's there. And so I ask, why you chose those questions, and then maybe answering that question for you. And did you come up with an answer for yourself? What is music, and what is music for you?
By the time you get to the end of the film, you've been had. It's kind of, I call it the gag. It's disrespectful, but by the time you've taken a 2-hour journey of being exposed to the humor in it, and the tragedy in it, and the goodness in it, and the rebellion in it, and the protest in it, and all of the emotions that we are as humans, music has its place in mankind collectively. So what music is to me is identical of what love is to me. It is a undescribable feeling that I surrender to, and it is an undescribable feeling that if I look at, for example, a bride and a father walking bride down the aisle, and there's no music, I receive that information one way. But if I hear this amazing song or this amazing arrangement, accompanied with that, I receive that information in an entirely different dimension. I receive it openly, with no judgment, and no, oh, she's wearing this dress. There's all this stuff gets broken down to, I receive it pure. And that's what it is to me. We are inherently phenomenal humans when it's attached. And I look at the goodness of what people do, such as Francesco, such as other people in the film, what they inherently project and what we receive. And by the time you get to the end of the film, I narrate the film, and a lot of it is my own personal opinion. But what music is to me is the last 2 minutes of the film. It is this, you've taken this 2-hour journey being bombarded with the strength of what music is through the goodness of people such as Francesco. And at the same time, you're being beaten up by it. And when you get to the very end of it, you have nowhere to go but to surrender to its goodness, because music is life. That simple.
Thank you. Francesco, what is music to you?
Cos'è la musica per te, Francesco?
Paradossalmente, il musicista non si fa mai questa domanda.
Paradoxically, you've never asked this question to musicians, to a musician.
Non mi sono mai chiesto cos'è la musica per me, mai, sinceramente.
He's never asked himself this question, what does music mean to me? He's never asked that.
Posso solamente dire che ovviamente per un musicista è qualcosa di totalizzante, tutto diventa musica, anche il mangiare, il camminare, il viaggiare, tutto quello che fai durante il giorno, tu traduci in musica. Anche l'ebraismo, no? Il tuo ebraismo diventa qualcosa di estremamente musicale.
For a musician, music is something as essential, just like eating, walking, reading. E qual è l'ultima parte come ebreo?
No, anche l'ebraismo, tu lo traduci tutto in musica. Sì.
Well, even Judaism, you translated it into music.
Sarebbe più interessante non chiedere a me cos'è la musica, ma chiedere alla musica cosa sono io per lei.
It's better if you flip the question, not what music means to me, what I mean to music.
E credo che la musica forse, probabilmente risponderebbe che sono un pianista, un direttore d'orchestra, un compositore e fortunatamente per la musica ho un cervello come quello di Kurisevich che memorizza tutto quello che cerca e ho deciso di mettere a disposizione di questa ricerca tutto questo cervello per portare a casa tutta questa musica e darla a tutto il genere umano, a tutta l'umanità.
Music would probably answer, that I am a composer, I am a musician, I am a thinker. Of all the just like Alexander Kulisevich, who memorized all this music, music is an act of remembering, of memorizing. That's what probably would be the logical answer that music would give to me.
Sicuramente fra 50 anni tutti noi, saremo tutti degli uomini molto più ricchi, perché se è vero che dopo questa pandemia ci nutriremo tutti di bellezza, stiamo portando a casa treni, navi di bellezza, fatta di questa musica che non smette mai di stupirci. Ancora oggi mi è arrivato un manoscritto dall'Olanda ed è un fiume in piena.
Probably 50 years from now, we will all be richer with this amazing music. There's boatloads, train loads of this music. So in 50 years from now, it'll just be an overflowing river of music. Maestro Lotoro has just recently received another manuscript, and it's just amazing. So definitely will be a much better. After this pandemic, there'll be so much beauty in everything, and music plays an important role in this.
Thank you, Francesco. I truly hope to visit the Citadel when it opens and be a
You're
part
welcome.
of that. And be a part of the Citadel. I'm excited.
You and Chris, of course.
And I'd never asked myself the question either as a musician until I saw the film. And then I thought about it. And it's music should be a part of all of our lives, intertwined with who we are and humanity and who we are with a relationship. So thank you both for being here today and taking your time to answer these questions and for bringing us a beautiful, thought-provoking, deep film. It is absolutely something that everyone should see. And thank you, Chris Gero and Francesco Lotoro, and Nanette, thank you for being here too, from the movie The Sound of Us. Thank you for joining us. And once again, thank you to all of our members, sponsors, community partners, volunteers, and all of you film lovers for participating in the milestone 25th Miami Jewish Film Festival.